Garten of Banban is like The Room in so much as that it's really bad to the point that some people found it funny, but it would also be like if they then made a sequel to The Room where Tommy Wiseau is suddenly very aware that people are memeing on it and decided to be more tongue-in-cheek, completely missing the point of why people found it funny in the first place. I remember when Chapter 1 came out, everyone was just kind of enthralled that it existed. I mean, regardless of your opinions on some of the different horror games that have come out over time, such as Five Nights at Freddy's, Bendy and the Ink Machine, Poppy Playtime, Tattletale, these games all at least had some obvious effort put into them, some obvious talent and craft that went into it. Garten of Banban just didn't. Now, I'm not saying that like I could do any better, but good lord, this is a real product. It's safe to say I didn't find any of it scary at all. Chapter 1 had basically nothing. It had the same problems as Poppy Playtime Chapter 1, except at least with Poppy Playtime, the chase of Huggy Wuggy could get the heart racing a little bit. I didn't feel much of anything dealing with Bird Up over here. And then Chapter 2 comes along, and it's, I guess, better. It's bigger, there was more stuff to do, they introduced more of the characters, and try to give you different things to do, but so much of it felt like a farce at times. Such as the whole thing with Banbalina, where you're in this school and you just go around picking stuff up whenever you're in a break time, which feels weird, like what's the point? And then you have to answer these quizzes, which is probably one of the closest times the game has to actually being semi-funny, now that it's trying to be a little bit more tongue-in-cheek, aware that no one's finding this scary. But otherwise, it's just not that great. Stuff like the spider chase is reminiscent of the Bird Up chase. I'm going to go with the majority and agree that the bird is probably the most interesting of the characters, because at least it does something other than just attack you or go on long diatribes. In terms of scares, I don't think there was really anything that scared me, except for one thing, and that was the giant, towering, monolith, which never got explained. I don't remember a single explanation in Chapter 2, maybe I missed it. Maybe I glazed over so much while playing it that I just didn't catch the explanation of this horrific entity as it just stood there menacingly. That was pretty intimidating. And because it was less is more. It wasn't saying that it was going to eat my spleen or something like that. It just stood there, ominously, and you were wondering, oh, is it going to do something? When is it going to do something? Turns out the answer was never. Chapter 2 just has it standing there and that's it, but, it got me. The graphics generally look like this is some claymation project, which, had that been intentional, I would call it a genius move, but it obviously is not, so everything just looks weird. None of it makes sense, and it just gets to the point where, after I finished Chapter 2, I just refunded the game. And I know people made a meme out of trying to refund the game, but at that point, I just gave up with Garten of Banban. I remember early on I considered following the story along, see how insane it got, but by the end of Chapter 2, I realized that it was just not worth my time. I think they've released chapters since then, they might be on Chapter 3 or 4 by now, but I just don't care. There's nothing in this for me. It's not scary, it's not intriguing, it's not even funny anymore. This has to be one of the worst games I played this year. It just sucks, and while it did feel like the devs were trying to get something vaguely interesting together, I just don't think they should have put this game out there, at least not for money. This feels like something I could have played for free. Is it the death of Mascot horrors like some people say? No, Mascot horrors will continue going on. Five Nights at Freddy's getting a movie shows that the genre is still very much alive and well and might even be going on to greater strength, as Five Nights at Freddy's becomes more immortalized, now venturing even further out of its legacy than just in video games. But it's definitely going to be seen as more of a fumble of a footnote. Don't get this one. I know there's a market of people who buy things to be ironic, but I don't think it's worth even that.